رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون. الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. بلانة دائمة الباقية لأعدائهم ومنكر فضائلهم وغاصب حقوقهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران على العالمين. صلوات. I've been requested to address tonight's and tomorrow night's majlis in English. But before I go to the actual talk, I would just like to, commend the community, especially the parents who have been showing up in the Urdu part of the majlis with their younger children. Even though they do not understand Urdu that well, but this is one way that they can become familiar with Urdu language, if that is the language of their family. Because we live in a society where to be multilingual, it is not a problem. It's actually considered to be an asset. In Canada, for example, English and French both are official languages. Actually, if you want to get employment in the federal government, you must know French also. And people can do that. So the point is that if this is the language, we should try to make our children also multilingual, in a sense that, one way would be when they come at that age to the majalis, this is how you come to learn the language. Because the point that we have to keep in mind all the time, and I'm not trying to say we shouldn't have programs in English. No, we have to look at the environment, we have to look at the time and the place that we are. And that's where, this concept comes up. For me also, Urdu is the first language. But the point is that when I look at the next generation, and I feel that it becomes difficult for them to comprehend the basics of our faith in a language other than the English language, the language of the land, then it becomes imperative upon us to convey our religious values and teachings in that local language. Because essentially, language is not the end, it is a means to something else. And that means is actually preserving the faith and deen and mazhab. Whether you do it in Urdu, or Gujarati, or Farsi, or Urdu, or English, or Spanish, these are all means. And this is how, Islam has been spreading around the world in different languages. And so, I can give you my own experience. When I came to Canada, first visit, or the first when I moved to Canada 40 years ago, I was asked to recite Urdu 10 minutes, no, English 10 minutes, and the rest of the majlis was all in Urdu. Now, if you listen on YouTube to my speeches in Toronto, it is 90% in English. The last part on Masahib is in Urdu. So times have changed. You know, we look at the demands of the future generation, because for us, the main thing is to preserve the mazhab and the deen. Salawat padhne par aur. If I may add one more, dimension to this discussion about language, people who are the Sadat in subcontinent, in India and Pakistan, their ancestors actually came from Iran via Afghanistan, going all the way to Kashmir and then going down south. Whether they end up in Punjab or in Delhi or go further, this is about, 400 years. What do you see now among the Sadat? They don't know Farsi. Not only that they don't know Farsi, if you give them this Irani food without mirch and masala, they wouldn't even like that. So the ancestors came from a different environment, different culture. But what did they do? They made sure that we are coming to a new land, and gradually things are going to change with interaction of the people in the local area. They made sure that our deen and madhab, our azadari survived, not in Farsi, but in the new language that they invented, known as Urdu. So that is a phenomenon you have to keep in mind, that language is not the purpose, it is the means to a higher goal. Salawat. The theme that I've been talking about in these majalis has been about the family life from the Islamic perspective. And we started our discussion about importance of family life in Islam, going on to the issue of different types of family systems, importance of parents during the old age, coming on to the phenomenon of marriage as the basis of family, and the sukoon, peace and tranquility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guaranteed for married couple in Surah Al-Rum. And then, there he talks about the issue of mawaddat and rahmah, mercy and, love towards one another. And we focused on these two phenomenon, the feelings that Allah has created among the spouses. And this is actually the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to every marriage. And it is for them to, strengthen it, preserve it, and enrich that. We moved on to the example of Surah Al-Tahrim, which is the surah which deals with family life, especially the challenges, the example of three Anbiya and their challenges with their wives, and also the example of Asiya bint Muzahim, who became a mu'mina by accepting the message of Musa alayhi salam, and the challenges that she faced from Fir'aun. Moving on to the topic of, tarbiyat of the children, the, upbringing of the children. And so tonight I would like to actually just talk about 2-3 different issues which are related to the overall theme of the family life that we talked about. And so this will be as a way of, adding to the discussions and the examples I had given before. Salawat. One of the issues, and basically, these are the questions which come up in the mind and how people, would like to know more about it, that when it comes to the issue of maintenance and providing for the family, whose responsibility is there? You see, there is an idea among those who are known as the reformists among the Muslims. They say all these methods mentioned in the Quran and the seerah of the Prophet and the Imams are all, outdated. And we need to look at the capacity of earning. So whoever is earning or earning more from the two spouses, that is the person responsible to provide for the family. This is there they are. They would like to change, what is the Islamic perspective on this issue. We have to realize that, these ahkam, especially when they come in the Quran, these are not bound by space and time. It might manifest sometimes in one way or another, but what is haqq and what is farz, it is there, fixed. And when it comes to the issue of, providing for the family, when we talk about what is known as nano nafaqah, maintaining the family, fulfilling the basic needs of the family, here, since the husband has been made the head of the family, the responsibility of providing for the family lies on the head of the family. There is no, second opinion on this issue. And this is where we come to the, situation, okay, these days, in many families, especially in the western part of the world, husband and wife work together. So what do? We have to realize even if both couple work and earn, whether outside or from home, the responsibility doesn't change. You don't look at the capacity and they say, okay, now the husband is no more responsible in this family and it is the wife. No. The husband would still be responsible for it, even though both of them are working. And when it comes to the earnings of the wife, it is her property. The husband cannot say that, you should bring it to me. It is her property, but of course it doesn't work that way, and I hope ladies don't look at this as an idea. I'm just talking about, the normal way that we see, and it is very okay, is that they pull the money together. It goes in the same kitty, and the family is maintained in that way. And there is no, what we call qabahat or dislike from the Shari'i point of view regarding the husband, that why are you, allowing the wife also to contribute? No, that there is no problem there at all. The only thing I would say is that whatever she is contributing, as far as maintaining the family life is concerned, that has to be, appreciated. And we talked about the issue of appreciation in different contexts. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about, the positions that He has given in the family life, the responsibility and the rights, He says, unlike the modern thinking there, the whole women's movement actually emerged as a opposition to men. We still don't have, men's, movement. It will come sometime, But this whole issue of looking at it, women against men or men against women, this is not the Islamic perspective at all. If you look at the ayat from Surah An-Nisa, ayat number 32, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have given certain, privileges, if I may call it, to some among you and not the others. It could be individuals, it could be even in the family life, men and women. And then he says, لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَا. The men shall have what they earn, part of their hard work. And the women shall have what they earn. وَاسْأَلُوا. So do not compete against one another. وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مَنْ فَضْلِهِ. If you want more than the other, don't look at it as competitors and enemies of one another. Rather, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His fazl and grace. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the knowledge and the ability to bless all those who ask Him. Salawat padhne ek baar aap. And irrespective of this issue, whether husband and wife both work and earn or not, we already looked at the example in form of baby Fatima and Amir al-Mu'minin alayhim salatu wassalam. Salawat padhne ek baar aap. That irrespective of who is earning, to help one another, especially when they are going through difficulties, and even to help in home chores for the husbands. This whole qasida that we have, the praise of Ahlul Bayt in Surah Al-Dahr and Surah Al-Insan that we looked at in details, where they fasted for 3 days and gave away their bread. That bread came from the earning of whom? Not from Ali. It came from Fatima Zahra. And so there is no animosity between the two. It depends on the circumstances, and they should be helping one another. I think one of the problems that we have especially for Muslims who have come to the western part of the world, is the language used in the West. Salawat padhne ek baar aap. You see, for a lady who works at home, in the English used in India and Pakistan, we used to write housewife. Already that term has a connotation of being something, somewhat inferior. So the husband is earning and the wife is just sitting at home. And now we come to the West and we hear the term, career woman. So those who have chosen, I'm emphasizing on this point, I'm not even talking those who are forced because of the circumstances. Even those who have the ability to work and continue their career outside, if they choose once they have children, that I don't want to go and continue my career, I want to be at home to take care of my family and my children. This choice is basically looked down negatively. And this is where we have to realize that, we have to appreciate the contribution of the women, especially what they do as far as staying at home is concerned. Because this entire concept of motherhood has been devalued in the Western society. As if to be mother is becoming a negative thing. And this is where we have to realize that when it comes to the contribution of the wife, and I talked about it in one of the majalis a little bit more in detail, that if you would like to look at it from the worldly point of view, you can actually put dollar value to the contribution of the housewife, what she's doing. And if you really want to look at it that way, keeping the house clean, cooking, serving the food, laundry, taking care of the children, even, helping them in homework and studies. When they are not feeling well, taking care of them. All these issues, if you were forced because your wife also was working outside, you would have to pay somebody to do all that. Only then you will come to realize, okay, I have been thinking and taking this as for granted, but there is, even from the worldly point of view, dollar value to the contribution of the ladies whom we call, housewife or homemaker. That is a polite term here in the West. They don't use the word housewife, And I say, I think we should even change the terminology. If your wife doesn't work and somebody asks, what she do, say, well, just well, she is the family manager or home economist. That's what she does, actually. Just give her, change the language so that you come to appreciate the contribution of the wife who choose not to go and work outside. Salawat padhne par. And that is why, the hadith that I mentioned in one of the majalis, and this is also in the saying of Amir al-Mu'mineen, in Nahj al-Balagha, saying number 131, where he says, Jihad al-mar'a husn al-taba'ul. That the jihad for a woman is actually to have, a good relationship with the husband and taking care of the family. Salawat padhne ek baar. There was a lady by the name of Asma bint Yazid al-Ansariya from Ansar in Medina. And one day she came to the Prophet in the masjid when he was with his ashab. And she asked to speak to him. While the ashab were still there. And she says, Bi'abi anta wa ummi. May my parents be sacrificed for you, Ya Rasulullah. Inni wafidatun nisa ilayka. I am a delegate from the women to you. Means I'm not only speaking on my behalf, all the women here in the city basically are behind me. وَأَعْلَمْ أَنْ نَفْسِي لَكَ الْفَدَاء. I would like to clearly say that, Ya Rasulullah, may my life be sacrificed for you. أنه ما من امرأة كائنة في الشرق ولا غرب سمعت بمخرج هذا إلا وهي على مثل رأيي. She says, I can assure you there is not a woman in the east or the west who would at all disagree with what I'm going to say. And then she says, now what is her question? She says, إن الله بعثك بالحق إلى الرجال والنساء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised you as a prophet on the basis of truth for men and women alike. فَآمَنَّ بِكَ وَبِإِلَهِكَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَكَ. We believed in you and in the Lord who has sent you as a Nabi. وَإِنَّ مَعْشَرَ النِّسَاءِ. But when we look at the society, we women, we are confined. قَوَاعِدْ بُيُوتِكُمْ. We live in your homes. مقدر شهواتكم وحاملات أولادكم. We carry your children for 8-9 months in our bellies. وإنكم, and we take care of them. وإنكم معاشر الرجال. But you men, فضلتم علينا. You have certain honors and sawab and ajr that we don't have. And then she gives the list. بالجمعة والجماعات. Jummah is wajib on you, but not on women. Jamaat prayers are emphasized more for men, but not women. Ayadatul Maris, to go and visit a person who is not feeling well, it's recommended more for men and not women. Shuhudul Janaiz, to participate in the funeral ceremony. Wal Hajj ba'd al Hajj, and mashallah, you men go for Hajj 1 year after another year. وَأَفْضَلُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And even above all this, al-jihad fi sabilillah. You have the duty to go and fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have been exempted from that honor. وَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ مِنْكُمْ إِذَا خَرَجَ حَاجًّا أَوْ مُعْتَمِرًا أَوْ مُرَابِطًا. When a man from among you leaves his home for Hajj or for Umrah or for Jihad, we are the one who stay home, protect their property, take care of their clothes, and upbring their children. فَمَا نُشَارِكُكُمْ فِي الْأَجْرِ يَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Now she comes to the question. So what is our ajr and reward in what we do? All the men have all these, rewards for all these things. What about us? Before responding to her question, Rasulullah looks around and among his ashab and he says, have you ever heard such an eloquent woman? Presenting her case in such a powerful manner. And then he turns to the lady and he says, Insarifi ayyahat al-mar'a wa'lami min khalfiki min al-nisa. Go and let all the women who are behind you, let them know أن حسن تبعل إحداكم لزوجها وطلبها مرضاته واتباعها موافقته يعدل ذلك كله. All the rewards that you have talked about the man, when a wife maintains her family life in a good way with the husband and family, it is equal to all the things that the men do. Salawat for Barak. And so for women to maintain the family life is not just not just a service in that sense. It is equal to all the ajr and sawab that the men get when they go out, for different purpose. Salawat for Barak. Let me just add one more point here. Sometimes we hear this term, head of the family, and sometimes my, colleagues, especially the young ones, they come and put it in a way which even I would have a problem with that. They talk about this concept of vilayat, the authority. Yes, the term of vilayat is there. In a family, the vilayat is with the husband. But when they link it, they say you have the vilayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have the vilayat of Nabi, then you have the vilayat of the Imam, and then they talk about vilayat of faqih, and then they say vilayat of the husband. I have a serious problem with the way putting it that way. The vilayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasul and the Imam is a matter of aqeedah. And it is a comprehensive universal vilayat we are talking about. Vilayat of faqih also is a fiqh issue, not a matter of aqeedah. There is a dispute among the jurists whether it is absolute or limited or not. It's a whole academic discussion about it. And the vilayat of the husband, don't look at it in that way. You're kind of giving us a sanctified version to it. So you have vilayat of Allah and the vilayat of the husband. And the husband says, This is not the way you look at this issue. This is a simple issue of family life. It is not part of our aqeedah as such. This is the issue of managing the smallest unit in the society known as the family. Salawat. In the very first election after the downfall of Saddam in Iraq, let me just give you an example of, the vilayat of the husband over the wife is limited to only two issues. And I'll be very, discreet here in how I'm saying it. Number one, she cannot leave the house without her consent. And two, she cannot refuse unless there is a health or religious reason. Other than that, there is no wilayat on the husband, on the wife. An example is that after the downfall of Saddam, when the first election came up for the Constitutional Assembly there, where, Americans had their own design to make it a caucus system between one-third Shia, one-third Sunni, one-third Kurd. This is where Ayatollah Sistani for the first time made a political stand. He took the political stand and he said this will be not acceptable or legitimate at all. He actually just used their own card. He said it has to be one man, one vote. Because he knew that the number of the Shias were, larger, not absolute, almost absolute majority in Iraq. And many issues came up on that. One of the questions he was asked that when the people go, especially the Shias and your muqallideen, men and women, when they go for voting, is the wife required to go and vote for the candidate that the husband is supporting? Or does she have her own mind and her own decision? And Ayatollah Sistani wrote it very clearly. On this issue, the husband doesn't have any authority. The husband can be voting for one candidate, but if the wife considers another one to be more trustworthy, one more competent, she can give the vote to somebody else. Not only that, when it comes to the issue of taqleed, does the wife has to do the taqleed of the same marja that the husband is doing? No. Although you might end up having Eids on 2 days, but at least you get biryani 2 days. But these are fiqh, religious issues. That she has her own identity, personality, as a person who can think and make decisions on these religious matters which are affecting herself. Salawat pढ़ने एक बार और. I know the man will be regretting coming tonight, but it's okay. Salawat pढ़ने एक बार और. One more issue which I've been emphasizing quite a lot, that Islam gives preference to a household being separate, provided it is based on silatul rahim, that maintaining of the ties. And this is something very important, and I referred to it even before, and I would like to come back to one or two points about it, that when we talk about silatul rahim, maintaining the ties, one of the ways of doing that, because when I got a question from, and this is a common question, I hear about it, that Maulana, I try to have good relations with my relatives, some of them, and because of past history or whatever happened in the generation before, I don't get good response. Well, if you're not getting good response, at least, try to do the minimum. If you see them, do salam, ask them how they are doing. You would have then fulfilled your minimum requirement of silatul rahim. You don't have to then go out of your way if they are not responding at all in a positive manner to your, expression of silatul rahim. One more issue about silatul rahim is that it is very much tied with the issue of sadaqah and khairat, charity that we give. Charity, we are talking about sadaqah and khairat here, which is not wajib. It's not like khums and zakat or fitrah. You will see that when it comes to the recipients of sadaqah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes that if you have people who are related to you, rahim, zabil arham, then they are more deserving of the charity than others. In Surah Baqarah, for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, not worshipping anyone but Allah and being kind to the parents, And then immediately he says, kindness towards the relatives and the orphans and the poor. That same issue has been repeated, different places. Surah Baqarah again, ayat 77, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala summarizes Islamic values and teachings. Where he says righteousness is not turning to the right or the left. Righteousness is actually believing in Allah and the last day and Malaika and the book and the Anbiya. وَعَاتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى. And to give your wealth out of your own will. So not as a wajib. We're talking about sadaqah. You give your wealth عَلَى حُبِّهِ for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ. The relatives come first if they are deserving of your monetary help. Not only that, even when it comes to the issue of writing your will, Islam has very specific rulings about who are your heirs. So, for example, if you have parents and children, your siblings don't come into picture. They don't get any share from it. But there is another provision we have in the Sharia that you are allowed to use up to 1/3 of your estate. And you can write it down to anyone whom you want. Maximum 1/3. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about that concept of 1/3 wasiyyat, He says, remember your parents and your relatives in the matter of inheritance when it comes to the 1/3. Although the parents already have a fixed share, but even then Allah says if you realize they need more, you can use that, exercise your right of 1/3 and give them more. And wal aqrabin, those who are closer to you in relationship. Salawat para. Two examples of Silatul Rahim before I come to the end of the towards the Masa'ib. Again, an example from the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Bibi Fatima al-Zahra salawatullah alayha. The harmony between the two. That should be the example all the time for us. We saw different scenarios. One is very interesting and I wanted to share with you. You might have heard it before. There was a time when Bibi Fatima al-Zahra was not feeling well. Whether this is during the pregnancy or not, we don't know. There's no context to that illness. So Amir al-Mu'minin asked her, Ya Fatima, ma yuridu qalbaka min halawati ad-dunya. Oh Fatima, what is your desire of your heart from the good things of this dunya at the moment? And Bibi Fatima Zahra says, Ya Ali, ashtahi rummanan. I have this desire to eat anar, pomegranate. It's amazing that Ali asked the question, but he didn't have the money to buy anything. And this is where we come to realize those who are at the higher level, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests them in different ways. And so what does Amir al-Mu'minin do? He goes first and gets a dirham on loan, and then he bought one anar, one pomegranate. On the way back, he saw a beggar. He couldn't just pass by. He stopped. And he asked the beggar, what do you wish? And he says, it has been 5 days. People have been passing by and nobody stopped. You're the first person to stop. I have the desire to eat pomegranate. It's imtihan, bala imtihan. So what does Ali do? He can't ignore that. He sat down, broke open the anar, started feeding this person. And now he returns home feeling disappointed. what do I do? As soon as he enters inside, Fatima Zahra salawatullah alayha comes forward towards him with a smiling face, and she says, and this is where you come to know that she is Waliyatullah, like Ali. She wasn't there, but she knows what happened. She says, Amma innaka maghmoom, O Ali, you are sad and disappointed. فَوَعِزَّةِ اللَّهِ وَجَلَالِهِ, by the power and the glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّكَ لَمَّا أَطْعَمْتَ ذَلِكَ الشَّيْخَ الرُّمَّانَ زَالَ عَنْ قَلْبِي اشْتَهَى الرُّمَّانَ. O Ali, when you fed that pomegranate, that old beggar, the desire just went away from me. Right at the same time, somebody knocks on the door. And Ali goes. Salman comes with a sini, a plate, covered with a cloth. And Ali asked him, Mimman hadha Salman? Who sent this? And he says, Min Allah ila Rasul wa min al-Rasul ilayka. This has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Rasul, and from the Rasul to you. So when Ali removed the cloth, he saw there were 9 anar in that tray. Ali counted, there were 9. He looks at Salman. Salman, لو كان هذا لي لكان عشرا. If Allah sent it to me, He would be sending 10 anars, not 9. Because the ayat of Quran says, if you come with one good deed, Allah will reward you 10 times. Now remember, Salman and Ali are friends, huh? So don't argue on this issue that how can it be. This is where Salman took the last one from his pocket and put it in the tray. Salawat from the Akbar. एक बार और सलावत पढ़ने में So this, closeness in the family life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps. Next time you have a situation of challenge in that way, and if you do silat al-rahim, think about it. You will see definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond to you in this dunya. Akhirat is there. But you will have to sometimes, identify that these are the situations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is responding to me. One example of Silatul Rahim is between Imam Hasan alayhi salam and his brother Muhammad Hanafiya. When we talk about good akhlaq, it shouldn't only be for friends and the community members. The demand and the farz of akhlaq also begins from home with family members. Muhammad Hanafiya was a brother from a different mother, and obviously he was younger than Imam Hasan alayhi salam. One day somehow Muhammad Hanafiya, had a verbal argument with Imam Hasan alayhi salam, became upset, and he parted from the Imam at the time with bitterness. But then he realized his mistake. Yet he did not want to go to the Imam. So what does he do? See, this is the issue. Sometimes even when you want to ask forgiveness, there is a way of asking forgiveness. He wrote a note and sent it with a messenger. And the note is very interesting. He says, أَمَّا بَعْدْ فَإِنَّ لَكَ شَرَفًا لَا أَبْلُغُهُ. Oh my brother, you have an honor that I cannot reach to that. وَفَضْلًا لَا أَدْرُكُهُ. And you have this fadilat and excellence which I cannot attain. أبونا علي لا أفضلك فيه ولا تفضلني. Our father is Sam. So you don't have a preference on this matter of being, our father, nor I on you. We are on the same level. But there is a difference. He says, wa ummi. imra'atun min Bani Hanifa. But my mother is a simple woman from the tribe of Bani Hanifa. Wa ummuka Fatima bint Rasulillah. That your mother is the daughter of Rasulullah. And so you have this, وَلَوْ كَانَ مُلِعَ الْأَرْضُ نِسَاءَ مِثْلَ أُمِّي مَا وَعَفِينَ بِأُمِّكَ. Even if the earth is filled with women like my mother, they would not be ever equal to Fatima Zahra. So then he says, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ رُقْعَةِ هَذِهِ فَالْبِسْ رِدَاءَكَ وَنَعْلَيْكَ وَسِرْ إِلَيَّ وَتَرْضِينِ. He says, when you read this note of mine, put on your abba, put on your slippers, and come to me, so that we can reconcile. وَإِيَّاكَ أَنْ أَكُونَ صَابِقَكَ إِلَى الْفَضْلِ الَّذِي أَنْتَ أَوْلَى بِهِ مِنِّي. He says, I would not dare take the first reward, which is more. When there is dispute between two individuals, two moments, the person who takes the first step will get double of this sawab. He says, I don't want to precede you on this matter. So I want you to come to me. You know, even this is very touching and a loving way of, expressing this concept. And Hussein ibn Ali looked at the note, laughed, smiled, put on his abba and nahalain, and he went to the house of Muhammad Hanafiya. Salawat. And so when we talk about Silat al-Rahim, even the entire tragedy of Karbala is based on that concept of Silat al-Rahim. Hussein ibn Ali did not leave Medina alone, nor did he just go with his immediate family. The entire family was with him from the very beginning. It's only Imam and Muhammad who joined later on in Mecca. Otherwise, Bibi Zainab, when it came to all other brothers, other than Muhammad Hanafiya, he was asked by the Imam to stay back in Medina. And this is where we see that all of them, moved together as a family. And this is where we come to realize we believe in a holy family. Our deen and madhab is based on that. And the tragedy that we mourn every year is a tragedy where the entire family supported one another. On the eve of Ashura, it was not only the Ashab, but even from Banu Hashim, Abbas was the first one. When Imam said, I lift my pledge of allegiance on you, you are free. Nobody will question you in dunya or akhirah about it. Abbas was the first one. He said, why would we even live after you? And we see this continuing in that way. The day of Ashura came, the men gave their shahadat. The women suffered in the way we talked about it last night. And they were witness to the atrocities which happened with the body of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. This is where I was saying that all the Islamic and human values were trampled by the Yazidi forces on the day of Ashura in Karbala. There is nothing worse which could have happened. Imam Hussain alayhi salam didn't want us to forget this tragedy. He gave us a message. Because the tragedy is very much linked to the issue of thirst, he wanted us to remember him whenever we drink fresh water. We can't live without water. Every day. And when did he give this message? After the shahadat in the evening, Sakina bint al-Husayn, the beloved daughter of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the 4-year-old one, whether you call her Ruqayya or Sakina, the same person we are talking about. She actually went missing. Zainab and Umm Kulthum, when they gathered the children, they realized Sakina is missing. And they went to look for her. It was amazing for them to see that she was actually there with her head on the chest of a body which didn't have the head. How did Sakina know that this is my Baba? Maybe it was, as we are told by some people, that when she was crying for the father, Hussain ibn Ali actually called, Bunayya ilayya ilayya, come to me. But that few moments that she was there alone with the body of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when Zainab comes there, and she basically tried to separate Sakina from the body, Sakina at that time says that, I saw my father in this dream. And he told me that, oh Sakina, go and tell my Shia, ma in sharibtum ma adbin fathkuruni, that whenever you drink fresh water, remember me. And when you hear about somebody who is alone and he's been attacked, mourn me. And this is where we see this concept of aza and remembering Imam Hussain alayhi salam. This is the message Hussain gave to us through Sakina after his shahadat. Next day, the day when the Yazidi forces now started to leave Karbala, going towards Kufa, and they brought these camels with the litters which didn't have any curtains or, for the women. The Yazidi forces were told to take the women and children, make them come onto those litters. When they came, apparently trying to help women, this is their Zainab and Umm Kulthum says, don't you dare even come close to us. We will manage ourselves. Zainab and Umm Kulthum helped all the women and the children to get on the litters on the camel. Then Zainab actually helped Kulthum as well as Fizza. But at the end, when she looked around, there was no one else. She must have remembered the moment she was leaving Medina, where Abbas was there, to help her to get on the camel. And it wouldn't be a wonder if we think about it, that she must have looked at the nahar of the stream of Al-Qama, and she would have asked Abbas, where are you? Zainab is alone today in Karbala. Azadaran Hussain, जब ये काफिला तैयार हो गया, यजीदी लश्कर ने इन सवारियों को शहदा की लाश जहाँ थी वहाँ से गुजारा है. जब बीबियों के नज़र जाती है वो गिरा देती हैं अपने को ज़मीन पे. हर बीबी जो है अपने वाली के पास, लाश के पास बैठ के रो रही थी. जनाब ज़ैनब भी हुसैन के लाश के पास रो रही थी. लेकिन करबला में अजीब मंजर हमने देखा है. आम तौर से लेडीज़ जो हैं वो ज़्यादा इमोशनल होती हैं, मैन हैं, दे ज़रा कंट्रोल करते हैं अपने फीलिंग्स और इमोशंस और जज्बात पर. लेकिन करबला में हमने कुछ और देखा है. जनाब ज़ैनब रोते रोते एक मर्तबा नज़र ऊपर जाती है उस ऊँट पे जिस पर इमाम ज़ैनुल आबिदीन को एक लिहाज से जकड़ा गया था. जब देखती हैं तो इमाम सज्जाद का चेहरा जो है उसका रंग बदल रहा था. पूछती हैं, बेटा ये कैफियत क्या हुई? What is happening to you, or Sajjad, or my son? It shouldn't be that this earth becomes without hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where Sajjad says,
"Oh aunt, why shouldn't I feel like this? I am young and alive, but I'm living my father's body, the body of my uncles and brothers and relatives, without any kafan and without any burial in the plains of Karbala." Allah Lanatullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. खुदावंद इसके लिए बात कबूल फरमा, हमारे गुनाहों को माफ़ फरमा, हमारे तौफ़ीक़ात में इज़ाफ़ा फरमा, हमें तौफ़ीक़ दे के सही मानों में हम मज़हब तशय्यो को सही तरीक़े से सीख सकें और उस पर आमिल रहें। खुदावंद इस दयार में हमें तौफ़ीक़ दे कि हम अपने बच्चों की सही तरबियत कर सकें, ताकि वलायत अहले बैत को जारी रखा जाए बाद वाली नस्ल में। खुदावंद आलम इस्लाम में सुलह और अमन की फ़िज़ा पैदा कर, खुसूसन गज़ा के मुसलमान जो हैं उन पर अपनी रहमत शामिल कर। खुदावंद जो तकफ़ीरी अफवाज हैं, जैसे मस्कत में इमाम बाड़े पर इन्होंने हमला किया है, खुदावंद इनकी तमाम सलाहियतों को नीस्त नाबूद फरमा, इमाम के ज़ुहूर में ताजिल फरमा। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम।